You know, coming into the Focus ST, I didn't really know what I wanted to have, but I think I know now, and it's this. G'day guys, Matt Brand here, and welcome back to the channel. Today I'm driving the 2021 Ford Focus ST, which I think is absolutely one of the most overlooked hot hatches you can buy. This thing is monstrously quick. I think it looks great too, and best of all, it is one of the cheapest hot hatches you can buy. And in today's review, I'm gonna show you why this thing is just so much fun. First, let's start with the pricing. Now, the Ford Focus ST starts at just under 50,000 Australian dollars drive away, whether you go for the manual or the auto. Today, I'm driving the auto, which is a mixed bag of great and well, not so great, but we'll get to that soon. Powering the ST is a detuned Ford Focus RS engine, a 2.3 litre EcoBoost 4-cylinder turbo petrol engine, and this engine pumps out a huge 206 kilowatt of power and 420 newton meters of torque, and that means that this thing will do 0 to 100 kilometers an hour in 5.7 seconds. This thing is quick, and if we give it just a little bit of sauce, you get absolutely everything you would want from a hot hatch. You get torque steer, you get tram lining, understeer, things that I just absolutely love and hilarious in a hot hatch. You get it here. So this thing is so much fun. It's also incredibly good at putting down the power. You get Michelin Pilot Sport 4S's all around, and the tires are wide, 235 mil wide. They are thick, and that means that you just can put down the power, unlike an i30N where you get horrible axle tramp because they're on, well, crap Pirellis. Now, as I said, I'm driving the automatic, and it is a 7-speed torque converter. Weird, right? 7 speeds. Well, it actually started out its life as an 8-speed, but Ford realized that second and third were a bit close together with their ratio, so they took out second, and now you get a 7-speed. And even though you get a weird shifter and, oh my God, it's an automatic in a hot hatch, it's actually a very good automatic. And one of the main benefits of having a torque converter over a dual clutch, for example, is when you're in traffic, like I am now, unfortunately, didn't plan on this happening. When you're in traffic, this thing is the best daily driver, because you almost forget that this is a hot hatch with so much power under the bonnet. Instead, it just becomes a really easy to live with car. Shifts are seamless, upshifts and downshifts. You do not feel them. You do not even know that this thing has a gearbox. However, the downsides to it is that this car really doesn't make any noise. Like a dual clutch will fart on upshift in a lot of hot hatches. This does nothing. In fact, the manual sounds so much better because it crackles and pops every time you upshift, downshift. This doesn't do that. It just has a loud exhaust, and that's it. And it's really not that exciting. Take a listen for yourself. It is also a little bit quicker than the manual. Even though theoretically the manual should be quicker, in real world testing, this always does a faster 0 to 100. So if straight line performance is your thing, then go the auto. But that's kind of where the good news, oh man, stops. This thing is so fast. Going onto a highway on ramp, let's see how this goes. So much confidence. I should say that it does have an ELSD in it, so it does send power to the wheel with the most grip, and it just pulls you around. See if I can get up to highway speeds. This thing is quick, so quick. Oh, what was I saying? I'm so impressed with how this thing accelerates. So the way I would kind of put it down is, don't just poo-poo the auto because it's an auto. It serves a purpose. About 75% of hot hatch buyers do buy automatic. So, you know, there's a monetary kind of reason for it. But if you're an enthusiast, go with the manual. I think you'll have more fun. Now, of course, there is way more to talk about with how this thing drives. I've only just scratched the surface. But for now, I want to talk about how it looks. The Focus ST is one of those hot hatches that's a bit of a sleeper. Maybe it's just because I'm in this gray paint. If you go with the orange or the blue, I guess you would really know that there's something special under the bonnet. But I genuinely believe it is one of the best looking hatches you can buy. It just looks really elegant. So starting with the front, again, very sleeper, very elegant and classy. I like it a lot. The grille is quite big and I love the ST badge within it. The headlights are fully LED as standard. I really like the daytime running lights, and they're bright too, so that's good. And then down the bottom, you have a pretty understated front splitter. Nothing too exciting. Again, it's a bit of a sleeper. I know I keep harping on that, but I really like it. It's something that in my day job, I would be very happy coming up to a client in it because it doesn't look like you're in a boy racer hot hatch when really you are. The side is very much a hatchback. I don't think there's anything too special except for these beautiful 19-inch wheels. They are like grayed out, and within them are massive brake calipers, of course painted red. It wouldn't be a hot hatch if it wasn't painted red. And shout out to Ford as well, because these brakes do pull up this car very, very well, and they are designed to withstand racetrack use. Very much like the i30N in that sense, and I love that car. But otherwise, there's not much going on except for some cool body lines, and you do get rear privacy glass, which is cool, factory tinted windows. And then the bum on this thing is just stunning. Up top you get a massive roof spoiler. Wouldn't be a hot hatch without it, of course. Probably provides like 6 tons of downforce. No, I'm joking, but it looks pretty cool. The rear taillights are LED and they're nothing particularly special, but again, a nice touch. The ST badge is huge, just like the front, really, really big. So it really shows off to everyone behind you. Again, something I love. And then down the bottom, you get a big rear diffuser and huge dual tailpipes, but I will reiterate that in the auto it just doesn't sound as good as the manual, which crackles and pops. You just get a loud drone. That's a shame. But on the flip side of that, at least you have a soundtrack in a world that's increasingly moving to electric vehicles. So maybe I shouldn't complain too much. But I'm curious, what do you guys think of the looks of the Ford Focus ST? Do you like the way it looks? Is it good that it's a bit of a sleeper? Excuse me here while I give it some sauce. Oh, this car is stunning. It's absolutely stunning. Now I want to move on to the interior, but before we do, if you have been enjoying the video, please do subscribe to the channel. I'd love to have you around. Of course, like the video too, and if you want to support Matt Brown Cars, check out my Patreon. I've got some cool tier things going on over there, and it helps out too. Alrighty, the interior, and I want to start with the overall look, layout, and feel. I'll be honest, I was quite surprised when I got into the Ford Focus ST. I used to own a Ford Falcon, and it didn't have the nicest interior. So I wasn't expecting a lot when I got into the ST, but I was super pleasantly surprised. You have soft touch materials absolutely everywhere, which is not a given in a car even at just under 50,000 Australian dollars. Even where your legs rest, you have like a nice leatherette material that's soft. So they've really thought about how you sit in here and the ergonomics and the way it feels. I will say though, it is very dark within here. You can option a $2,500 panoramic sunroof, and I would almost do that just to make it a bit brighter in here because it's a sea of black plastics. I mean, you get some nice things like the carbon fiber look here, but it's dark. In terms of ergonomics and practicality, it is again very good, and that's why I love hot hatches, by the way. They're just a jack of all trades. The steering wheel is tilting and telescoping massively. The seats are adjusting too massively. You get 2 cup holders up front, and in the center is like a little cup holder thing, I guess for like little energy drinks or something. And they do have lighting within them too, some ambient lighting, which I think is very cool. And you can change the colors and it changes the whole interior, which is nice. Back onto the highway here, so let's give it some sauce. This thing is quick, man. This thing is quick. I've lost my train of thought. You get some more storage up front for your phone. There's a wireless charger within there and heaps of room to just place your keys or whatever else you want. You also get a USB port up there and a 12-volt socket. Then there's another tray just in front of the center armrest, which is pretty massive too. Speaking of, the center armrest is really deep and it's also sliding, so you can get your arm into a nice comfortable position. The door bins are absolutely massive and they're felt lined too, so things don't rattle around. Really good attention to detail in the Focus ST. And one of my favorite things about this interior are these seats. They are Recaro seats, partially leather, partially cloth, and they are absolutely fantastic. They look incredible, really, really good. As I said, they're very adjustable. They have good lumbar support. The only complaint I have is that they are very buckety. So my legs are a bit, pushed in, but I've got thicker legs. So if you're a bigger person, definitely take this for a test drive, a longer test drive, so you can make sure that these seats are okay for you. But they look great. They look absolutely fantastic, and I really haven't had any issues. By the way, I'm on a highway right now going 100 k's an hour, and it is dead quiet within here. I'm really, really impressed by how low the noise floor is in this thing. It's incredible. Very surprising. An i30N is much louder on the inside, so it feels quite premium in here, surprisingly. I also absolutely love this steering wheel. It is a big, chunky boy. It feels really good in the hand. I like how it's got the perforated leather on it, and the white stitching is a very nice touch. And you got the ST badge down the bottom, and of course it's D-shaped. Wouldn't be a race car if it wasn't D-shaped, but again, it's stunning. And then you've got buttons to control absolutely everything in the car, absolutely everything, including your driving mode. So I'll put it into sport now. Press the little S button and let's give it some sauce. We'll turn this little corner here. Okay, let's go. It's just so good. I'm so impressed. I'm so impressed. In fact, I'm so impressed I'm gonna put it back on the highway. I just wanna keep going on ramp. It's a lot of fun. And actually you got a lot of different driving modes. So I'm in sport now, again, about to go on a highway. So give it some sauce, get up to speed, and we're there. This thing is so quick. Oh, we'll get back into driving in a moment. Let's stay on the interior. And actually now we're on the highway. Now is as best as time as any to show you the active safety. So I'll put on the cruise control. I'll set it now. Now, this thing has active lane keeping assist. It will steer you in the lane. It has adaptive cruise control. It will take you all the way to a stop and resume as well. This thing can drive itself. And it's one of the best applications of it ever. And this is one of the reasons why the auto is actually really good, because obviously you can't do stop start in a manual, but you can in the automatic. So if you're doing a lot of around town or on highway driving with bumper to bumper traffic, the auto again might be the way to go. Now, new for 2021, at least here in Australia, is this digital instrument cluster. It replaces the old analog, but it's a bit of a mixed bag. While it looks graphically cool and impressive, it's really, really laggy. So laggy that it's frustrating to me, quite frustrating. Of course, it's still very, very functional. On the left-hand side, you have your speedometer. On the right-hand side, you have your tachometer. I hate doing 3-point to press. Okay, I hate doing 3-point turns in this thing. I really don't like this shifter. Not because I just hate drive-by-wire shifters, it's just that this one is annoying. Now, when you do change between the different modes, you do get these little cool animations, which I like. I especially like slippery. It's like the world is icing over, kind of like from Game of Thrones, or you have normal, which is just a nice little earth. You're driving down a road, but I don't know. It's just unnecessary, I think, because they're just so laggy. So I would rather have the analog gauges, which just work. You know, they just work. Nice to have. And there's a cool little Easter egg when you're driving along and you have the adaptive cruise control on. If you're in normal, you just get this generic looking car, but if you put it into sport or race, then you get a Mustang as the car you're following. So that's pretty cool. And then of course in the center, you can change between different displays and show different things, but you know, it's not as good, anywhere near as good as the Volkswagen Virtual Cockpit. So yeah, keep that in mind. I should say, as part of the 2021 refresh, they've added some things, but they've taken away some things too. So what they've added are the digital gauges, and for the manual cars, they've added the adaptive cruise control. But for all models, they've taken away the 11-speaker Bang & Olufsen sound system. They've also removed the blind spot monitoring, rear cross traffic alert, and the heated seats. So, you know, you kind of lose a few things, but I don't think you gain that much this year. So that's a bit of a shame. And personally, I would probably go for a 2020 model for that reason. Though they are releasing an ST3, which you can spend $3,000 or so more, and you'll get a panoramic sunroof, and it re-options everything back. So I guess that's an option too. Anyway, the 8-inch infotainment screen, even though it's connected to a pretty tinny 6-speaker sound system, which I'm not happy with, it is actually incredibly functional. It's so responsive to the touch, and it has everything that you really could want. It's a bit on the small side now at 8 inches, but you get navigation, you get digital radio, Android Auto, and Apple CarPlay, and it's color accurate and just works well. So I really don't have many complaints about that. It's good. So really on the interior, apart from the digital gauges and the 6-speaker sound system, it's really good in here. And for just under 50K, it's so well equipped, so well equipped. In terms of rear seats, you get so much room back there. I have plenty of leg room, headroom, and toe room at 5'11". So I don't know what people are saying when they say they can't fit back there. You can fit fine, unless you're a freak of nature and very tall, which most people aren't. In fact, my only real complaint back there is that you don't get air vents, which is annoying in Australia, because when it's summer, that's what your passengers want. But still very comfortable, so it's a good place to be. And then boot space is absolutely phenomenal. You have so much room back there, so much room. It is just really, really impressive. Of course, you can put down the rear seats and get even more room, so yeah, no complaints there. Back to how this thing drives though, and the LSD is incredible. It just has so much grip. You have so much confidence driving this thing around. It is nuts how good this thing is. Absolutely nuts. You have so much power on tap. you put your foot down and this thing goes. It just goes. Now, as I said, you do get lots of different drive modes. So there's normal, which really makes this thing feel like a normal car. Then you have sport. You have a little button on the steering wheel to toggle straight to that mode. You have racetrack and slippery, which is kind of like an eco mode almost. It dulls down throttle input. Now, when you change between the different driving modes, it does completely change this car. In normal, this car feels like any other hatchback. When you put it into sport mode, you feel like you have so much potential at your foot. You just put your foot down and it goes. And what changes is the steering feel. You get a lot more feedback and it just feels like a go-kart. The adaptive dampers also change, so you definitely do start to get a bit of a stiffer ride, but nothing unbearable, at least in sport mode. If you put it into racetrack mode, which I will do now, it really does stiffen up, and I would really only keep this mode for the racetrack. I wish there was an individual mode where I could set it so everything's 100% except for suspension, but it'll do. And it's actually pretty incredible. In race mode, it really does just make everything 110%. So let's put it back to sport mode. Steering is definitely on the heavy side. Not that I mind, I think it really suits the character of this car because the handling is incredible. The chassis is so stiff, which is nuts to me because it's built on an economy car platform. So I would love to shake the engineer's hand and really give them my utmost of respect for building such a cool car on an economy car platform. You definitely feel a lot of the road in the Focus ST. It's not the most comfortable car out there, but as I said, if you're buying a hot hatch, you already know that you're not going to be getting an ultra plush luxury ride, and it's more than bearable. I find it actually very comfortable, especially in normal mode. Put it in racetrack mode, sure, it's going to feel like a race car, but isn't that what you want? Right? Isn't that what you want? You know, coming into the Focus ST, I didn't really know what I wanted to have, but I think I know now, and it's this. It's everything that this car delivers. I'm so impressed by. From the engine response to the handling to the steering to, well, probably not the fuel economy. That's pretty awful. I'm getting about 10.4 liters per 100 kilometers, mostly highway driving. But then I am driving a bit lead-footed, so it's all right. But I think to sum up my driving experiences with this thing, I'm super impressed, especially for the price. So let's get into the is it worth it, where I can succinctly wrap up my thoughts. At 50,000 Australian dollars, you are getting so much car for your money. You are getting a family car that's plenty practical, fully loaded with all the latest safety tech and driving assistance tech, and yet comes with an incredibly potent 4-cylinder engine, incredibly potent. Although I still think I personally prefer the soundtrack and the kind of thrill that you get from the i30N. There's no doubt that this thing is faster and feels more competent at driving. It certainly feels way more luxurious in the interior, which again, I'm very surprised about. So I can absolutely recommend the Ford Focus ST. More people need to know about this car. I don't think it gets thought about enough here in the Australian market, and it's an absolutely incredible car. But I'm curious about what you guys think of the Ford Focus ST, and let me know if you want to see more hot hatches on the channel. Hot hatches are my favorite breed of car, so if I can get more on, I will. Just let me know. Also, definitely subscribe if you're new to the channel and like the video too. If you want to support the channel, go click on my Patreon link down in the description below. And as always, I will see you next week. One last bit of sauce.